talking about this hot topic of talent attraction and retention. My name, for those who don't know me, is Claire Harrison. I'm the Managing Director of Harrison's. We started back in 2009. We're a HR consulting and outsourcing company. Today, we're planning on going for about 30 to 45 minutes, and if we can, I might just save questions to after the end of each segment. So we will get underway. So I don't know if any of you saw, I did share recently on LinkedIn a McKinsey's article that talks about 40%, it's actually 41% for Australians are looking to leave their jobs in the next 3 to 6 months. So that was a part of a global piece of research they've done. So that's really 2 out of 5 people in their sample in Australia. So they're thinking about leaving in that short term. So they go on to talk about, I suppose, 3 trends that are happening, and that's about, one is reshuffling. So unprecedented, like not before, we're seeing a lot of people move across industries rather than staying in their same industry. So that is definitely a change. There's the other group of people that are reinventing. So many employees looking to leave traditional employment and go to the temporary or gig or part-time that haven't been doing that before. And the third group, you know, especially post-COVID, are those that are just reassessing. So looking to quit jobs, maybe they need to care for children, elders, or themselves, and they're just taking time to dramatically stop, make a sea change, or just deciding not to work or much less. So that's the reshuffling, reinventing, and reassessing. We've probably also heard around things like the Great Migration. There was the Great Resignation, which we haven't really seen so much, but we're definitely seeing the Great Migration in terms of people moving, especially up to Queensland. It's definitely, we talk about people having career reflections, and life reflections is definitely a trend that is happening. Just let a few poor people in. And the other one that McKinsey's also talks about is the quitting trend, just because it's the thing to do and the grass is greener. So this quitting trend continues. We're seeing it with clients, that it continues to be challenging to employers of people leaving. Often we know it's for more money, but often it's just because it's a different role and it seems different and they're reassessing and let's move. There's, you know, we also have the rising of increasing interest rates, which I think people and obviously us as employers will start to think about. Interesting, in Australia, August 2022, that's the latest ABS data. So total job vacancies were at 470,000, which is actually a slight decrease on May. That's down 2%, but it's 41% up on 12 months ago. So we have 41% more job vacancies, but the problem we have at the moment is just really, it's not even a skill shortage, it's just a people shortage. It's just the numbers don't equate. So if you were to do if every employer was to do everything right around talent attraction, then we still wouldn't have enough people to go around. So it's a really challenging time, as I'm sure people are experiencing. So I might just kick off with the agenda. So we're going to talk about the state of play, which is a little bit about what I just spoke about. I'm going to talk about the long game versus the short game when it comes to talent attraction and retention. And then we'll talk a bit more about talent attraction and retention, but the short game in terms of getting some quick wins. So like I've just said, there's it's an employment boom. It's really an employees market. It's a tight labour market. We're pretty close to full employment. Queensland's sitting at 3.2% unemployment. Australia's sitting at 3.5% at the last stats, so really low. Our international labour levels are well down. We're not seeing that return as what we've had in the past. There's definitely a talent and a people deficit in terms of the number of roles that we need to recruit, which is increasing our cost of hire. In addition, we've got that salary creep that comes with that. So we do have a lot of people, you know, poaching, stealing within the same industry or same positions. And to do that, they're offering more money. And I'm sure we've all heard the stories of substantially more money in some situations. Employees are really evaluating their work-life balance, as I said. And, you know, the latest stats, and this is from PwC, are saying the average cost to hire is now up to $23,000 per candidate, which is up 10,000 over the previous year. So that's a huge cost, which I know recruitment that we do for clients and with clients, there's a lot more that goes into it in terms of looking at how it's presented, what we're selling, loads more in terms of doing search on LinkedIn. So it's all that time and effort that goes into that. Depending on what stats you're looking at, but 38% of workers are considering leaving their current employer within the next 12 months. That's the data from PwC. Like I said earlier, there's the other data that says 41% in the next 3 to 6 months for Australia. So that's where we're sitting at currently. So at the moment, fundamentally, there's just a mismatch between the demand for people and the supply in the market. So employees are continuing to rely on our traditional levers, money, compensation, position titles, advancement opportunities. There's definitely those people in the market, but there's a whole lot of other factors and what people are considering in terms of moving. There's an opportunity that we should be looking at over that rather just traditional money-focused approach. So as a result, there's now a gap in the labour supply because there simply aren't enough of those employees to fill all the openings, even when employees are successfully wooing people from rivals. They're just really reshuffling talent, and the end result is that salaries and wages and the expense to businesses and cost and products and services are all increasing, but really we're failing to solve the underlying structural imbalance that is existing at the moment. I'll have a look at these. We all know this. We get the I quit. It hurts. It hurts for so many reasons. There's a cost to business, impact on clients, and all the other reasons that we know. And they're just some of them. There's all the internal cultural disruption. There's the loss of intellectual property, the cost of training replacement, the resulting productivity losses, all of the rest of those things that I'm sure you are all experiencing at the moment. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be on this webinar. They're just some stats around the cost of turnover, just some of the traditional costs, but it's just showing the significant cost that does come with turnover. And again, we look at the direct costs in terms of the wages and salaries, but it's also in terms of retention and turnover, it's all of those other costs that aren't necessarily that visible or that direct that we look at as well. So I suppose, the purpose of just outlining this and highlighting it is that, if we took this money and invested it more in our retention strategies and attempted to diminish our turnover, then in many ways we would be so much better off. So we will talk about strategies. Some of them will definitely cost money. But think about, the cost at the moment that turnover has on your business or your organisation. So I wanted to talk about this. This is the long game versus the short game. So I'm sure you're all here, as am I, as we have clients every day about the quick fix. It's taking so much longer to recruit key roles. Candidate numbers are down, quality is down. People, if you're not onto them really quickly, they disappear. The good ones get a job, sometimes within 24 hours applying because they're already out in the market. So you need to move quickly. I'm going to talk about some quick wins today, but really it is a really long game. A lot of the strategies that are impactful and will make a difference in the area of attraction and retention are really long-term strategies, which we all need to start working on, but we will talk about the short game as well. So really, another quote from McKinsey's, no single solution is going to attract enough people to fill all the job openings and retain a productive workforce. Instead, employers can take a multi-pronged approach to reach different talent pools. This doesn't mean that organisations have to change their mission, values or purpose. Rather, they can showcase different facets of their employee value proposition to a broader number of workers and get more creative in their offers to current and potential employees. So to me, that just reinforces there's very few quick wins in life or when it comes to attraction and retention. It's a long-term game and it needs to be, and I'll say this a few times, it really needs to be focused on your business, your industry, your employees in terms of what suits them specifically. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about, when we're looking at this is a bit on the long term. So overall, you need a business plan. So a business plan is driving wherever your purpose or your vision is for your organisation. We need that as the overriding plan for where we're going. Under that sits the business plan. But more importantly, that we will look at is those values and behaviours which forms your culture. If you can recruit on culture, then you're well ahead of the pack. So some of you may know is that I wrote a book about 5 years ago now, and part of that was interviewing a whole range of CEOs that had won or ranked highly in Best Workplace Awards. They had high levels of employee engagement. They were also really successful businesses and organisations as well. They consistently said the differential for them versus other in their industry was their culture and their people. So we can put all the plans in place about the KPIs and operations, which are obviously very important, but it's also about driving those values and behaviours and delivering on that culture, creating a culture where people want to come to work and they want to be part of your business, a purpose and a vision that inspires them, that they actually feel as though they're making a difference, the why for them and the why for your organisation. So values and behaviours, being able to recruit and not just recruit, having people come to you because they love your business so much and they hear such good things about the culture that you're creating with your people. If you can recruit based on that, then you'll have people applying without having to go out and hunt them. And that was the result for a lot of these organisations that I spoke with. So the plan needs to be in place because that also helps to determine, importantly, your workforce planning around the roles and the resources that you need. And we talk a bit later on about are there alternatives to those needs when you really can't find the people that you've been looking for. So I did mention why just before, so hopefully most of you have seen this, but this is Simon Sinek's The Golden Circle. He does an excellent TED Talk. It only goes for about 20 minutes, so you should watch this. It's often mostly used from a marketing perspective in terms of how we promote and sell products and services. We don't just talk about the what of the service or the how, we talk about really the why. So when we see all of the advertising and commercials, we see all these people having fun and enjoying life, and then it comes back to them selling an insurance product. So it's more about that why that everyone's trying to sell, the feeling, the emotion that goes with that. So it's no different when it comes to employees and the engagement that they want. So they want to be they're looking at not just what the job is and how I'm going to go about doing that, but why am I coming to work? Like, what difference am I making in my life? And as we see more of the traditionalists move out of the workforce, we're definitely looking at, especially younger people, but a whole lot of people, I think, even revisiting over COVID, is what is my purpose? Like, what enjoyment, like what difference am I making in my life? Is this really what I want to be doing? So we can talk, there's a whole lot of other sessions and work that we do around that. But, for us at Harrison's, our purpose is about helping people to make meaningful connections and contributions at work. So we all spend a lot of time at work. So for us, it's about helping businesses and the employees of those organisations really connect and contribute and feel as though they're getting that meaning out of their work, as I want for my team at Harrison as well, to feel as though their work is truly valuable. So you need to think about that why, and there's a whole lot of sessions and examples that we can talk about there. And I would just say the only thing I will say on this is I do hear things like, oh, we're an accounting firm and it's so boring, our why, we're just about doing tax statements and financials. I would say that you're understating, diminishing the purpose of your jobs and the impact that it has on your clients, and therefore how you're talking to your employees about the work that we're doing. So I think if you had a look at Paul Sidorovsky, he's got an accounting mid-tier firm down in New South Wales. And I would think you'd be well placed just to have a look at how they really talk about their purpose. And happy to talk separately about other examples of that as well. Best workplace methods. So this is what my book is based around. So really, and this is why we talk about the long game, for those organisations that have all these things in place that are doing it fabulously, and I'm not sure that I know one of those, but I'm sure there are, is that's when the current challenges are less, because you're known as a great employer, you're known as somewhere that people want to come to work, and not just attract people, but you're retaining them. So it all starts from leadership and culture. We need to get the leaders and the culture working well, and being something that people want to be a part of. But just as important are the other areas, and we're going to really talk mostly about that appointment and recognition in today's webinar. These are really important for today in terms of 4 key pillars to focus on when we're looking at attraction and retention. So we want to attract a large pool, or a large quality pool of candidates as much as possible. We want to retain them. We need to enable them. So we'll talk a bit about enabling them in terms of how they do their job and making sure that they feel as though they're confident and competent to do their roles, and the frameworks we put in place around that. And then, you know, this most important piece that I was just talking about earlier is really that connection with your workforce. And I would say, I'm not going to talk about it today, but the challenges that come with that when we do have remote working and working from home. So how do we build in those connection opportunities with our team? So all really important about today's topics of attraction and retention. So employer brand. So when we look at, I was talking before about, you know, the purpose, the vision of the business, and we get down to the culture and the behaviours. Really, that is also about our employer brand. So every company has a reputation as an employer. Employer brand is how you're viewed as an employer in the market and internally as well, both internally and externally. It's about how you want your organisation to be perceived in the market with others, with your people. It's also about living that story. So it's not just about going out there with some nice marketing material and telling people what your brand is. It's really about living out that story. And, you know, that's about that being authentic and being true to what the organisation's employer brand and values are. So, and we will talk a bit about this later, because I think that comes down to when we are promoting, marketing, communicating our employer brand is really the power of storytelling. So we can give all the words, but really good to hear it from people that are actually living that story throughout our materials. I would say here, I think it's really important, you know, we balance that. You know, I'm a HR person, people and culture expert, but we balance that when I think really important when it comes to employee brand. I'm going to talk about EVP as well. The employee value proposition is that it's a real marketing function as well. And that's about how we communicate it to our employees, but also how we communicate it to those external and key stakeholders. So this section was really about the long-term game, because an employer brand does not come overnight. So this is just a really messy mind map that really just shows you how multifaceted an employer brand is. So, you know, it's about the brand. It's about also, you know, your clients and how other people perceive you. It's about how we're measuring it. The attraction and retention, you'll see somewhere down here in little boxes that create the EVP is just one small part of it. Engagement, all the content that goes around to support their development and promotion and communication of the employer brand. So this is part of your long game. You know, it's not an overnight fix. We're going to talk a bit about a small part of that, which is EVP, and a bit on the attraction and retention for some quick wins. But really, it's a long-term game that you need to be getting your heads around and start putting a plan behind. Okay, so these, if you want to have a look at some good examples around employer brand, Atlassian has a great story to tell. They've been very strong since the beginning on their culture, you know, and they're a very successful organisation. Another one more locally is Epworth. So they've got some good information to look at, especially when it comes to that storytelling and the experience from their employees. So some good examples and case studies there. Okay, so that's talking about the long game. I'm going to go more specifically now into talent attraction. So I think importantly, so if you think that it's only about reactive recruitment and placing a job ad and you're getting frustrated because you're not getting enough quality and quantity of candidates, then you're coming from the wrong place. Advertising should be the icing on the cake, not the flour and the eggs. So because the best candidate for the job never applies generally. They have already shown interest, sought roles, spoken to other staff. That's about the proactive recruitment. So the good people, the people that are most relevant to your business, they're often connected in some way. They've been following you. They've got a friend maybe there, or they've been in touch before. It's a really, you could be nurturing the relationship, but it's often not someone that's just going to apply for the Seek ad that you're applying. So you need to be thinking about how are we building that, because at the moment there's a huge competition for talent, and if we look on Seek, there are thousands of ads. Like, I'm sure, looking at HR consultants, HR managers, there's thousands of ads, and not much stands out from another. But how are you going to stand out? How are you going to make a difference? Why should they apply for your job? Why should they work for you? Is all the questions that you need to be asking. That's the market that we're operating in. You can't sit back and just wait for people to come to you. It needs to be a proactive strategy. It's definitely going to take more time than what it has in the past, but we all need people to operate our businesses and our organisations. So it's an investment that organisations need to make at this point in time, and be really savvy and considered about the approaches they're going to take, and measure that to see what's working and what's not working. But most importantly too, and we'll talk about later, is also the retention of those current employees, because we want to be keeping those people. So leading on from the employer brand, we're going to talk about employee value proposition. So really it's just a subset of the employee brand. So it's really about, why do people work for me? So why are they attracted to work for me? Why do they stay working for me? We need to really work on our EVP, because we need to be proactive in promoting that and living that and nurturing that with our current employees, but also when we're going out and wanting to go out to the market to attract new people. It could be just when you need to set your company apart from the competition, and it's about proactive recruitment, attraction. So it's not just a buzzword. I know we're hearing about it a lot right now. I've been in HR for a very long time, and EVP is not a new concept, but something that's really important at the moment. So where do we start? This talks a little bit more about what it is. Once we know what it is, we need to communicate it. So on this page, the way I suggest people start is, most importantly, is talking to your current staff, people that are applying for positions with you, people that have left you, about why do you work here? Why did you apply for the position? What about this job or this organisation is of interest to you? Then basically you collate that all together. And if you're getting common themes come through of people why they don't or why they do work for you, we really want to promote the good stuff in that, because that's what you're doing well. Let's focus on those strengths and really ensure that that's what we're communicating. So we have clients that we work with that we do exit interviews for. We also do stay interviews. So we have some clients that we just randomly do stay interviews with each quarter. And present back to them. These are the trends around why people are working with you. They enjoy working with you, but these are some of the things that they're saying could be improved, or they're not enjoying so much. So that gives that feedback regularly for them, that they can continue to work on and tweak their employee value proposition. So I definitely suggest, rather than running off and spending potentially a lot of money and definitely a lot of time on developing all of these things that you think, well, everyone wants, I don't know, extended leave. We all want extended leave, but let's just use that as that might not be the biggest thing for your employees. Yours might be that they want more professional development, which we hear very commonly. And there's some sectors, and we deal with a lot of allied health professional companies. So their employees are very much wanting professional development. It's just nearly a given that they should have that. But that's not as relevant to other industries or other businesses. So before we run off and start doing the work and developing programs, we really, really need to talk to our employees about what is valuable to them. So this is just an example of what is important to some people. But I think, like everything that I'm going to talk about, every business, every industry is unique, as are your employees. And the best source of that information is talking to them about why they're with you. Maybe look at doing an employee engagement survey to get some feedback on what's working well and what could be improved. It's all feedback, it's all information for you to do something with to improve your business or organisation. So collect the information that will inform the development of your employee value proposition. Like I say, we can't rely on the job ads. You need to think creatively. So EVP, really important. Need to develop it, need to articulate it, and really need to communicate it. So talking about communicating it, so Canva do a good job. If you want to have a look at this, so 5 reasons why I should join Canva. If you don't have already, you should definitely have a careers page. When we're competing for talent, people want to get a feel for your organisation. They'll look at your socials and they will look at your website at a minimum. So you need socials, you know, you're promoting from a client BD perspective, but all of those messages and posts are also being read by prospective employees. You need to think about that. You know, so I always encourage, you know, 1 in every 3, 5, whatever it might be, post needs to be something about your team, so people get a feel for what it's like to work with you, what the EVP is. So at a minimum, websites and socials. These are some, you know, just basics. I think it's just a basic fix. If you're looking at these are Seek banners. So Seek, you have the opportunity to use a branded Seek banner. It's part, I think, of all the packages. So you can go up there and set something out. It makes you, you know, it gives a feel. It's living the brand for your organisation. So definitely get onto that if you're not already doing it. Employee brand, the videos and the storytelling. So the one on the left is one of ours. I think it's the testimonial mashup video that's sitting at the bottom of one of our job ads, but we also use that on our website as well. And the one on the right is with the client Laser Central that we've used. People really like the videos, especially when it's people talking, I think, and they say people, employees in the workplace. It gives them a feel for what it's like to work with you. So it's about selling the brand and the employee value proposition, and, you know, making sure you get the right people applying for your jobs. If they like what that looks like, then you're also getting a sense of culture fit as well. So, you know, I know we deal with a lot of SME companies and they would say we can't afford the huge video production and all this sort of thing. What I will say is now more than ever, people are all into it just being authentic and natural. Doesn't have to be overproduced. I think they prefer it not to be in many instances. So we've just had a challenge internally ourselves about doing employee testimonial videos. So these are 2 examples. They're on I think they're in our socials, but they're also on our YouTube channel as well. So they just recorded themselves on their phone. I did pay someone on Fiverr. I think they're about $150 each, if that, just to do some of those titles and editing. And they'll go out on brands. So it's no, you know, there's no excuse to say we can't afford it, it's too expensive, it's too time consuming. This was a challenge to employees. They did get a $200 cash bonus, and plus we had $500 for the winner to encourage them to do it. So it's, you know, it's easy, but people like it. It's authentic. They get a feel. We always get positive feedback on that for ourselves as well as with clients when they do it. Oh, we don't want to watch the video.
Harrisons, because I love their mission of best.
Okie doke. So look, this is just a multitude of me brain dumping in terms of some ideas. So we're looking at the short game, the quick wins, because that's what everyone's after around sourcing strategies. What I will say though is what does suit your business. Like I say, you know, you've got your trends and your stats about what you've done, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what your employees think, what everyone else thinks. But I think, like I said, as must-haves, you need a great careers page. It needs to have some videos. It needs to talk about working. It needs to talk about your culture, your values. You know, it doesn't have to necessarily be about these are all the tasks that sit within a job. It's more about what is it like to work for you and why would I want to work for you? Why work for us? You need to be able to articulate that really clearly and stand out from your competitors and other positions they're looking at. So the social media presence, like I said, it needs to have some regular posting about your team to reinforce that EVP. and you need those standout ads. So making it different, I think, I think there's two extremes of ads, ugly ads, I would say. One is the short ones where they write a paragraph and there's no information and it's just poorly written, spelling errors or whatever it might be in it, but it's just provides no information about the organisation or the position and no reason why I would want to apply for that. And then the other one is the really long ones who go into a whole page of this is what the job is and these are all of your tasks that you need to do the job, and this is our selection criteria and my weighting, and you need to do a 20-page document to apply. It's in my mind, it's ludicrous. I'm not sure who's sitting down and reading those 20 pages. How do you assess that, and to what benefit? It's still all subjective. So I think, if you've got that type of selection criteria requiring people to write, I don't know, half a page on each selection criteria, you're completely putting off people wanting to apply for those jobs. So get rid of that. But also just remember, your job ads are an ad, and really you're just trying to have as many people as possible connect with you, the position, the organisation, and apply for the job. Once they apply, that's when you can have those conversations about the job more, or how it fits. But we want it to stand out from the crowd. You really, really need it to stand out from the other ads at this point in time. So standout ads, they're the must-haves, those three, if nothing else. Then look, the others just depend on what suits your business and your industry. We have a fabulous client who is not on. So anyway, I will talk. They're an allied health professional organisation. So they have a long-term strategy. They run seminars. They're very specialist in their industry. They've got an excellent reputation for their technical expertise of what they do. They run seminars around that and events. And from that, they offer, the principal offers a coaching program. It's a paid coaching program. It's not expensive because we're looking at the lower end of the market. Lower end of experience, I should say. And then from that, she does the coaching session. And then from those people, if there's people that really stand out that she's interested in, she actually nurtures them into potential employees. So it's a long game, but it's a path that has really, really worked for them. They're very specialist in terms of what they do. And they're growing and they need a lot more people than what they have. And as I'm sure many of you know, the allied health professional sector is exceptionally competitive for talent. So you could do events that you're holding. Many people do that, especially if you're hiring, grad programs or en masse people, or just going to events, industry events. In our case, HR industry events, and talking to people. Trade shows, for many of you, you meet a lot of people at trade shows. If they're coming to your trade shows, they're interested in your product and service and your industry. We did have a client recently, and they sell caravans. And they also do struggle at times, although they have an amazing reputation, family business, and they're wonderful. But they have just recently hired one of their customers who bought one of their caravans now to work for them, basically in customer care and doing the handover of the caravans. So that's a great source rather than getting the job out and having to try and find people that are actually even interested in your sector and your product. Universities and tastes, you're not using it, then you definitely should. There's opportunities there. There's grants available in terms of taking on different types of people, so you should definitely look to use that as well. Another option which sits a bit differently is thinking about changing the job requirements. So some jobs have been really hard. I know we've been working with clients, and it does mean that in some cases we've had to pay more money, but we've also changed the jobs to a certain extent into something that's less difficult maybe to recruit, and there's more people in the market, maybe not being so specific about our needs in terms of travel or where it's located. When you've got multiple offices and it could be in another office, that definitely opens up more opportunities for applicants. Interns, so the universities will do interns, extra people, but more the long term of taking interns on with potentially being able to offer them permanent employment once they graduate. Apprentices, trainees, like I said, there is funding around at the moment. Importantly, which is really important, I think, because it is a long game, is really nurturing your talent pool. So people that do express interest or that you meet somewhere that you think is really good, creating that talent pool and finding a way to keep in touch with them, whether or not it's catching up with a coffee every 3 months or whatever it is. And I know it's long term and it's an investment of effort, but you know, based on those turnover and retention stats, is well worth the effort, especially if you've got people that are really interested in your business and you think they'd be a really good fit and the timing's just off. So that's a few ideas. A few more is employee referral bonuses. So if they refer a new employee to you, then looking at paying bonuses. We have just had one of our employees receive a $5,000 bonus for this just recently. But I know others, I think I've heard some of the big consulting firms are paying, you know, 30, 40 grand because that's the cost of their attrition and retention. So for them, that's worthwhile. And you have people coming in, you know, they already know or have a feel for the organisation because their friend or a colleague has referred them in. So have a look at that. There's also the client or supplier or other people on your network that you could offer referral bonuses to if they're relevant and they have connections with prospective candidates for you. Definitely, there is a large sector of the market that is looking at the work from home and flexible work arrangements. So you need to look at that. You need to talk to your people because not everyone is after it, but definitely it has obviously, as we all know, increased since COVID. So if you're not offering it, you should definitely look to do something that suits your employees. Market competitive remuneration. People are definitely jumping for money. I think some of that potentially we can't change, but really if we're looking at if someone's going for 10 or 20 more, then, you know, potentially you need to find a way in terms of paying a retention bonus or something that would equate to that. And I know, you know, I have a lot of our clients that talk about they're hating that because they don't just want to continually pay out money and people are leaving and then they're coming back, or, you know, they're having to hire, they're just getting really frustrated with it because cost of business and services going up. But, you know, all I will say, if people are leaving because the money, putting what we, you know, what you think and feel aside is, you know, is it worth us paying the extra whatever or giving them the whatever when they're doing a good job where they are a good fit and whatever else, but you all need to make that assessment. But I think at a minimum, if you haven't done the market benchmarking, then you should do that and ensure that you're market competitive. Other alternatives, so I just thought I'd add these in because we're looking at quick wins, and sometimes I know we've got clients to the point they've been trying to recruit the same roles for many, many months. Potentially, is there a project or a piece of work that could be outsourced to someone else, whatever that might be, as a solution, whether it's temporary, ongoing, is an option. Offshoring definitely works. So we have many clients in offshoring for certain types of roles. So possibly that's a consideration. Having someone in on a fixed term or a contractor consultant time arrangement, is there technology or a system that could help to alleviate, I suppose, the pain of, you know, having the vacancy that exists. So they're just some thoughts. The other one is definitely LinkedIn search. For most of our clients, that is useful, especially if you have professional roles, managerial roles, is LinkedIn have, you don't need to buy the LinkedIn license, although if you have the numbers for turnover, it's definitely worthwhile doing, but there's other ways to do that around just upping your license to a premium license or using the Sales Navigator function to help with that, but definitely helps to more proactively target people who you think would be suitable for the organisation. Okay, so a little bit more on attraction is the employee referral program we spoke about. Engaged workforce, identify people who know the right people and skills, referral bonuses for them, could be non-monetary or monetary. Options around that, contact past employees or inactive casuals for re-employment. We spoke about creating the videos of existing staff, that really the power of that storytelling. And obviously advertising through multiple, and especially on socials. Your socials, your company socials is very effective because it gets that passive job seeker rather than relying on only active job seekers on the job boards. Just a little mention of the next generation coming through. So the most powerful method is attracting word of mouth. So important. Employee referrals, continuous presence on popular media platforms. I'm not that young, but I think TikTok and Instagram for a younger audience, which is different to our traditional LinkedIn or Facebook, not to say they're not effective as well. Sponsorship of local sports or social events, we've definitely seen that be effective for some clients. Promotions in schools and universities, if you're looking for grads or school leavers, really, really good to do. The most important attributes you can promote to that cohort of people is flexibility to combine work and studies, if that's what they're still doing. The job itself, they want interactivity, they want variety, communication needs to be a bit exciting, and I would say needs to be linked back with that purpose. Corporate image of a well-known, growing and dynamic company, and I would say purpose-driven as well. Top 3 things Gen Zs are looking for: flexible work hours, innovation, and the possibility of growth. And always on that, I think with Gen Z is also the professional development as well that comes with that. So just thinking about, those of us that are more, traditional, we really need to look at different ways and creative ways of attracting people. How do we stand out? Where are we not competing so much for talent? So a few questions to ask yourself around attraction. Your employer brand, what is it? What's your reputation as an employer? Talk to people about that. What is your EVP? What are you offering? Why would they apply or accept your job over another? How could you improve your EVP and your brand? And what alternative strategies have you used to source candidates other than just posting a job? And what could you do, I suppose, is the question. So that's our section on attraction, and I hope there's some good quick wins, short game wins for you there. So we're going to talk next about retention. So just back to this best workplace method, our best workplace method. It's important just as much the same, and I'm going to talk about EVP again as well, is we talk about them all the time in terms of attracting people to the business. What are we going to do to attract people? It's just as important to think about how we're retaining our people. So again, I really think the most important thing is that leadership and culture. But, recognition, wellness is, a huge other issue to talk about on another day in terms of psych safety, mental health, and how we look after our employees in that way. So best workplace method, important to think about it strategically as part of your business plans. So you need to keep employees engaged, and that is through your EVP. This is some interesting stats around EVP. So an effective EVP can bring an organisation significant benefits, including those increases in employees recommending your organisation to another as a place to work, reduction in turnover, boosting commitment from employees, so that discretionary effort, and up 50% reduction in payment of premiums to new hires. So good reasons to invest in the development and promotion and living of your EVP with your employees. So that's the EVP part, thinking about what is it that we offer. I think the other really important part of retention is we go to all of this effort, expense, time to hire people. We really, really need to ensure we have a good onboarding and induction program. One that obviously gives them all the skills, knowledge to be able to do their job, but also too, it's also about that connection with the organisation, about your culture, your behaviours, this, how do we work together in a formal and informal way? How do we come together? How do we build that culture and that team? So, the onboarding induction part is about enabling them to do their job, but it's also about that connection too, and starting to form that connection with the organisation. So Atlassian have got some good information on that you could have a look at. This is an interesting, Patrick, one of his books, which are all fabulous. 3 signs of a miserable job. So what he talks about is anonymity. Are employees recognised, or are they just more like cogs in a wheel? Do you have employee recognition programs? So what are we doing that makes them feel like you care and value them as an individual? The second one is about measuring. So do you or your employees have a way to measure how well they're doing? Do they have really clear role clarity? Do they have KPIs? Do we have performance views? Is there a way to give and receive feedback? So we talk a lot about, not that annual performance review, which I'm not saying you shouldn't do, but building that culture of giving and receiving regular feedbacks, the catch-ups, the feedback in the moment. We don't want to be waiting 3 months, 6 months, 12 months to give feedback. And then the third one is about relevancy. Do employees see how they add value to the company? Now, this is about this purpose and me feeling valued. Do you have development conversations with your employees? Do you invest in their future and in turn your own? So I think, they're all really good points, again, that could be fleshed out into a much longer conversation, but I think really important to people feeling enabled to do their job, but also connected with the organisation, the company and the people that they're working with. Okay, so strategies to enable your workforce. So, and this is about the attraction piece. So invest in your onboarding program, because the better they feel about their job and confidence and getting up to speed, connecting with the people they work with, the better chance we have of retaining them. We don't want that quick turnover in the first 3 or 6 months. We want them feeling connected, and that's what that initial onboarding, that first 90 days, that's why it's so important. Develop and promote clear learning pathways, really important. And we don't have, again, time to touch too much on it, but, if we could get our internal professional development and career pathways in place, it means we're much less reliant on having to go externally to recruit. And not only that, we'll retain people because they're feeling challenged and they're feeling like they're getting development and that they're progressing. So really important. And those performance development conversation, there needs to be a framework about helping them to happen. Leaders need to know how to do those. Employees need to know as well. It's all about that giving and receiving regular constructive feedback. So really important to have a framework around that. This is just, more on that in terms of that connection piece. So do your leaders actually know how to connect with their people? If there is one area that companies can and should emphasize when it comes to management training, is really about active listening and communication, asking good questions, open-ended questions, and listening. It's about that communication, giving space. You don't have to fill up every moment. It's really important. Employee dissatisfaction with their leaders is almost always the result of poor listening skills or poor communication skills on the part of the leader. So asking questions and listening. It's important for leaders to understand what's in it for the employee if they want to understand how to motivate their people. Look, and I think this all comes down to, when we're doing leadership training and talking, is all about emotional intelligence as a leader. So who am I talking to? What are they thinking? What's in it for them? It's not just about me delivering a message, but what are they wanting? How are they hearing what I'm saying? And adjusting that to suit. It's important for leaders to understand, people need to feel valued, and authentic and empathetic leadership is required in a post-COVID world. So important. I had the conversation with yesterday about the empathy versus sympathy. So, empathy in leadership is such an important skill to have with leaders, and I think it comes back to asking the questions, putting yourself in someone else's shoes to really understand and appreciate that. So talk about also your values. How do you communicate? What kinds of leadership traits are rewarded within your organisation, the business? Is it about listening? Is it about empathy? Is it about building that culture? This is, some quotes here about, we all want to be validated. We all want to be understood. So as leaders, it's about asking the questions, and not just leaders. It's about everyone within, we're all working in a workplace together, asking the questions, listening, really listening, and showing empathy to others. So I'm sure you can read this, but this is interesting in terms of a quote from Oprah, and it talks about every interview that she's had, including Beyonce, at the end of a performance or of interview, they always ask, was that okay? They want to feel validated. Was that okay? So, we all want validation. So that's that one. So, back to, which I think is so important, is the purpose. And this comes down to the purpose of the organisation, the why of the organisation. How are the values clear? Are the values lived? Do your employees understand their purpose in the organisation? Do your employees have role clarity and understand their accountabilities? Do you survey your employees or talk to them to get honest and open feedback? And do you act on the feedback? So this to me is so important in terms of, and it's a long-term goal, but you can start now just by talking to employees and asking them some of the questions we've been talking about. So short game, ideas to approve, intentions. So this is just me brainstorming. It's going to be different to suit every single organisation and business, which is why I put the first point in. Is the first thing is to talk to your employees, get to know them. What do they want and need? Consider an employee engagement survey for feedback. And then it could be any of these things. It may be flexible work arrangements. It may be professional development, career pathways. They might want more or different communication. Review your REM and competitiveness. Reward and recognition programs. And I've lifted a whole lot of things that might go under that. But again, that will be different to suit your organisation and your people. And we've spoken about potentially for some roles, you would definitely need to look at retention bonuses, especially for critical roles that you need to keep in the organisation. So next steps, and I would just say is really organisations, they need to make their jobs sticky. And that is done by investing in more meaning, more belonging, and stronger team and other relational ties is what it needs to come down to. So really start by talking to your employees. Establish the plan that suits your business, implement the plan, and then evaluate the results and just keep changing to see what's improved. The market changes too, so it will all change. So thank you very much for listening. If you do have any questions, feel free to get in contact with me either through the socials or through email. But thank you for your time.